True power is using your global platform to fight for the freedom of others. In the 1930s, Josephine Baker was celebrated as the most famous and highest-paid black female entertainer in the world. But when World War II erupted, she refused to sit on the sidelines while tyranny threatened humanity. Recruited by French military intelligence, Baker became an official undercover spy for the French resistance. She used her celebrity status to attend high society access parties, gathering critical information on Nazi troop movements. She risked execution by smuggling secret military maps and intelligence across borders, written in invisible ink on her sheet music. After the war, she refused to stop fighting for human rights, turning her focus to the American civil rights movement. She refused to perform for segregated audiences, successfully forcing major clubs to integrate their theaters. In 1963, she stood alongside Martin Luther King Jr. at the March on Washington as the only official female speaker. Josephine Baker proved that a woman's ultimate power is the courage to risk her own life and privilege to secure freedom for the world. True power is refusing to let other people write your story. In the 1920s and 30s, Anna May Wong rose from working in her family's laundromat to become Hollywood's very first Chinese-American movie star. But behind the glamorous gowns, she faced an industry designed to limit her at every turn. Due to strict anti-miscegenation laws, she was legally banned from kissing white actors on screen, robbing her of major leading roles. Instead of accepting defeat, Wong showcased her incredible resilience and business intellect. She packed her bags, moved to Europe, and learned to speak fluent French and German so she could star in international films and plays. She used her global leverage to shatter Hollywood stereotypes, even founding her own production company in 1924 to control her own image. Wong was also a deeply committed humanitarian and political ally. During World War II, she stepped away from cinema to dedicate her time and money to the United China Relief Fund, helping refugees overseas. Anna May Wong proved that a woman's ultimate power is the strength to break through glass ceilings and build her own empire. True power is refusing to let the world minimize your intellect. In the 1940s, Hedy Lamarr was globally celebrated as the most beautiful woman in cinema history. But off the movie lot, she was an exceptionally brilliant, self-taught electrical engineer. During World War II, she wanted to do more for the Allied war effort than just sell war bonds. Drawing on her knowledge of weapon systems, she set out to solve a major military crisis: enemy jamming of radio-controlled torpedoes. Alongside composer George Antheil, she co-invented a revolutionary secret communication system. Her breakthrough idea was frequency hopping, rapidly switching radio signals across 88 different frequencies so enemies could not intercept them. In August 1942, she officially secured U.S. patent number 2,292,387 for her spread-spectrum technology. Though the military didn't use it immediately, scientists later realized the sheer magnitude of her genius. Today, her exact wartime invention forms the foundational architecture powering modern Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS tracking. Hedy Lamarr proved that a woman's ultimate power is a mind that can quietly change how the entire world communicates. True power is knowing your worth when the world tries to define it. Born into extreme poverty in Sweden, Greta Garbo left school at 14 to help support her family. Her quiet intensity brought her to Hollywood, where she quickly became a global phenomenon of the silent screen. When cinema transitioned to sound, critics predicted her downfall due to her Swedish accent. Instead, her deep, commanding voice mesmerized audiences in Anna Christie, cementing her legendary status. Garbo's greatest strength was her unshakable autonomy in a male-dominated industry. In an era when Hollywood studios completely owned and exploited their stars, Garbo refused to play by their rules. She weaponized her star power to demand unprecedented salaries, making her the highest-paid actress of her time. She forced executives to grant her creative control and rewrite her contracts on her own terms. Fiercely protective of her personal freedom, she completely rejected the Hollywood publicity machine. She never married, refused to grant interviews, and walked away from the screen forever at just 36 years old. Through sharp financial investments, she lived the next 50 years in total independence. Greta Garbo proved that a woman's ultimate power is the courage to dictate her own terms. Imagine a 19th century billionaire widow. Instead of retiring, she uses her massive fortune to build a battleship. Then, she names herself the commander and sails into war. This is the true story of Laskarina Bubulina. Born inside a Turkish prison in 1771, her life was destined for drama. By her 40s, she had been widowed twice by pirates. She inherited 2 massive shipping fortunes, making her incredibly wealthy. But the Ottoman Empire tried to seize all her money, so Bubulina sailed straight to Constantinople to fight for it. She charmed the Sultan's mother, winning an imperial decree to protect her wealth. But she didn't just want to keep her money. She wanted to fund a revolution. Bubulina secretly built the Agamemnon, a massive 12-gun warship. She bribed Ottoman officials to look away, claiming it was just a trading vessel. When the Greek War of Independence broke out in 1821, she threw off the disguise. She took total command of her own private naval fleet. Bubulina became a nightmare for the Ottoman Navy. She blockaded ports, rationed food to troops, and led amphibious assaults. She often stood directly on the ship's deck under heavy enemy fire. Her bravery earned her the rank of admiral, the first woman in naval history. Yet, after surviving brutal sea battles, she met a shockingly quiet end. In 1825, her son eloped with a girl from a rival family. During a furious backyard argument with the girl's armed relatives, someone fired. Bubulina was shot in the forehead and died instantly. She spent her fortune and gave her life to free her country. Today, she remains one of Greece's greatest national heroes. In 1917, a brilliant, radical political strategist launched a high-stakes psychological war against the United States government. Her name was Alice Paul, and she didn't politely ask for the vote. She took absolute command of the streets to demand it. Paul engineered the Silent Sentinels, a fierce, highly organized group that pioneered the historic tactic of picketing directly outside the White House gates. Standing in freezing rain and blinding snow for months, these women silently held massive banners that mocked President Woodrow Wilson, exposing the hypocrisy of a nation fighting a global war for democracy while denying it to women at home. The government retaliated with terrifying, brutal force. Paul and her fellow activists were thrown into a notoriously abusive workhouse prison, but she refused to break. Instead, she weaponized her own body, launching a severe, grueling hunger strike that pushed her to the absolute brink of death. Terrified she would become a martyr, prison officials locked her in a pitch-black psychiatric ward. Guards pinned her down while doctors forcefully shoved rubber tubes down her nose and throat, brutally force-feeding her raw eggs and milk. But Alice Paul turned state torture into her ultimate weapon. Word of her horrific treatment leaked to the press, sparking massive public outrage and a public relations nightmare for the White House. Realizing they could not conquer her unbreakable iron will, the government finally blinked. Alice Paul's unyielding endurance completely forced the passage of the 19th Amendment, proving that true power doesn't beg for permission. It bends history through absolute sacrifice. She voluntarily checked herself into a psychiatric hospital in 1977 and proceeded to conquer the global art world from inside its walls. Her name is Yayoi Kusama, and today she is the top-selling living female artist on the planet. Her signature polka dots and immersive infinity mirror rooms aren't just trendy photo backdrops. They are the ultimate display of psychological warfare turned into artistic empire. Born in Japan in 1929, Kusama suffered severe childhood trauma and vivid hallucinations, seeing the world covered in repeating patterns. Her abusive mother repeatedly tore up her canvases, demanding she become a traditional housewife. Kusama refused. She fled to the 1960s New York art scene, completely penniless, sleeping on the floor, and scavenging for fish heads just to eat. Her talent was undeniable, but the system was rigged. Major male contemporary artists constantly plagiarized her radical ideas, achieving mainstream fame while she remained broke and ignored. The intense stress triggered a severe mental health crisis, and she eventually returned to Japan to live in a psychiatric facility. But you cannot cage a mind like Kusama's. For the last 50 years, she has walked from her hospital room to her studio every single day. She took the terrifying hallucinations that haunted her mind and weaponized them, painting millions of dots to obliterate her anxieties and force the world to see reality exactly through her eyes. Her ultimate triumph is total cultural domination. The same art world that sidelined and copied her now bows to her genius, with lines stretching for hours just to spend 1 minute inside her infinite worlds. Yayoi Kusama didn't let her trauma destroy her. She painted over it, built an empire, and made herself immortal. Forget everything you know about pirates. The most successful pirate in human history wasn't a man. And she didn't command just a few stolen ships. Her name was Qing Shi, and at the height of her power in the early 19th century, she ruled an armada of 1,800 ships and 80,000 pirates. That is a fleet larger than most national navies. Born into extreme poverty, she rose from a floating brothel in Canton to become the co-leader of the fearsome Red Flag fleet. When her husband died in 1807, she didn't step aside. She seized absolute command through brilliant political maneuvering and an iron will. Her defining characteristic was absolute, uncompromising discipline. She transformed a chaotic horde of criminals into a highly organized sovereign state. She enforced a terrifying code of laws. Stealing from the communal plunder or disobeying an order meant instant decapitation. Crucially, her laws protected female captives. Raping a prisoner was a death sentence. She wasn't just a raider. She was a master naval strategist. The Chinese Imperial Navy, the British Royal Navy, and the Portuguese fleet all launched campaigns to crush her, and she defeated them all, time after time. But her ultimate display of power was how she walked away. In 1810, recognizing a stalemate, she negotiated a legendary surrender with the Chinese emperor. She kept her immense wealth, secured full amnesty for her crew, and retired to open a successful gambling house. While other pirates met a bloody end at the gallows, history's greatest pirate queen died peacefully in her own bed. Completely undefeated. Lyudmila Pavlichenko, known across the battlefields of World War II as Lady Death, became one of the deadliest snipers in military history with 309 confirmed kills. Born in 1916, she was only 24 years old when Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union. While many expected women to remain behind the front lines, Pavlichenko demanded a combat role and refused to back down. Armed with a Mosin Nagant rifle and extraordinary patience, precision, and focus, she fought in some of the war's most brutal battles, including the sieges of Odessa and Sevastopol. Enemy forces feared her name. German soldiers reportedly attempted to lure her from hiding through loudspeakers, promising wealth and safety if she surrendered. She refused every offer. After being wounded in combat, Pavlichenko was sent on an international tour to rally support for the Soviet war effort. During her visit to the United States, she became the first Soviet citizen welcomed at the White House, where she met First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. But it was one moment during a speech in Chicago that made history. Frustrated by reporters focusing on her appearance instead of the war, Pavlichenko declared, "I am 25 years old and I have killed 309 fascist invaders. Don't you think, gentlemen, that you have been hiding behind my back for too long?" The crowd erupted in applause. To this day, Lyudmila Pavlichenko remains one of the most legendary female snipers the world has ever known. Imagine walking into a crucial peace negotiation and the enemy governor refuses to give you a chair just to humiliate you. What do? If you are Queen Nzinga, you don't blink. You lock eyes with your servant, who immediately drops to all fours. You sit on their back, look the governor dead in the eye, and negotiate as absolute equals. This wasn't a movie. This was the real life of Queen Nzinga Mbande of modern-day Angola, the most brilliant and ruthless military mind 17th century Europe ever faced. When Portuguese colonizers invaded her homeland to capture her people, Nzinga didn't hide behind castle walls. She was trained from childhood in diplomacy, politics, and the art of war. She mastered the battle axe, wore mail armor, and took the throne by force when her kingdom needed a true war leader. For over 40 years, Nzinga was a walking nightmare for European empires. She mastered psychological warfare and inverted every gender role of her time. She ruled strictly as a king, commanded an all-male harem, and led her armies directly into the chaos of the front lines. Even in her 60s, she was personally leading brutal guerrilla ambushes, combining forces with Dutch mercenaries, and outsmarting the world's most powerful empires. The Portuguese sent army after army to capture her, but Nzinga died a free, undefeated queen at 81 years old. She proved that absolute power doesn't ask for a seat at the table. It creates its own. For more stories of history's most unstoppable women, subscribe to Kaikala Women of Power. Who should we feature next? Drop a comment below.